so like my opponent mentioned, these assault weapons have been a very hot topic, a topic that like many people have mentioned. And it is not the first time that it has been brought up. Like you mentioned, there was a ban in 1994 brought up by Senator Dianne Feinstein that banned assault weapons. However, before this, they didn't really have a definition as to what assault weapons were. And according to Bruce H. Kowalski and Joseph E. Olson, writing in the Stanford Law and Policy Review, he says that prior to 1989, the term assault weapon did not exist in the lexicon of firearms. It is a political term developed by anti-gun politicians to expand the category of assault rifles. Okay, so he mentions that the reason why this ban was put was that people they kind of felt scared as to what others can do, like danger that was presented by these assault rifles. However, the guns that they were scared of, they were already banned. The assault rifles, they were already banned. These assault rifles are like the M4A1. It's a fully automatic, which means that it can shoot multiple rounds per pull of the trigger. And it can fire up to 950 rounds per minute. Okay, so that's, as you can see, that's like super fast. It's something that would be very, very dangerous, you know, in the hands of a civilian. But these kind of guns were already banned. So what they did is they just kind of expanded it, and they wanted to ban other kind of guns. And the guns that they were trying to target were semi-automatic, which means that these can only fire, like handguns, they can only fire one per pull. But the thing was that what scared them was that some of these guns, the assault weapons, they had too many characteristics shared with the assault rifles, and that's what presented a danger to them. So some of these were semi-automatic rifles that had characteristics that shared with the assault rifles, semi-automatic pistols that also shared some physical characteristics, the handguns with fixed magazines, capacity of more than 10 rounds, semi-automatic shotguns, which my opponent failed to mention, and ammunition feeding devices, which are like magazines, the strips, and the drums, that are capable of accepting more than 10 rounds. So all in all, they had a list of 157 specifically named guns that they can no longer manufacture or sell. So, however, after they did that, what they did find was that people could, like the manufacturers, what they did is that they changed the names to keep on selling them. So just because they banned those, it didn't mean that they had gotten rid of the problem. Okay? According to the Violence Policy Center, an anti-gun lobby says that handgun restrictions is simply not viewed as a priority. Okay, and then he also mentions that anything that looks like a machine gun at that time was assumed to be a machine gun. And this can only increase the chance of public support for restriction on these weapons. So the reason why they did that is just so that people could support it more, because they were scared of machine guns. Now they're going to be scared of assault weapons, whatever it is that an assault weapon is. Okay, so my opponent mentioned that mentioned a case, the one in Aurora with the shooting in the theater, right? Okay, so he mentioned that he was carrying an assault weapon, which was, the weapon that he was using, that one I saw that it was one that it jammed. The one that was supposed to fire super quickly, that one was the one that jammed, it did not work. Instead, he used other guns that he was carrying, such as it was like a handgun. It wasn't one that was gonna shoot multiple rounds per trigger. However, there are other cases which have been brought up when referring to the ban. Like, for example, the Columbine high school massacre. which occurred in 1999. The ban was put in 1994. It was brought up and it was put into place in 1994. And 1995 was only 5 years after that. However, stuff like this was still happening. And the guy that was in this shooting, he was carrying a Hi-Point 995, which is a handgun. Like it's not a machine gun. It's a simple handgun. However, the fact that he could only accept 10 rounds per magazine, all it did was just make him have more magazines. He was found with 13 magazines, and he was able to shoot 96 rounds. Okay, so he shot 96 rounds before killing himself. As you can see, there was a lot of deaths because of this. And just because the ban was in place, it did not mean that it worked. Why? Because people can still find their way around these laws or these bans. Also, my opponent mentioned the inadequate legislature, how the black market can also, that we have to get rid of the black market. However, black market is, instead of it going down, it's going to go up because it has been already brought up that when there is a ban on these things, like people are going to find their way of obtaining them anyway, and the only way to do it is illegally. And I don't know if it's pretty obvious, like people who do these things, like the massacres and the mass killings, these are people who have the guns illegally. They're not people who have their own gun or like they have it registered or that they are safe with the gun. People who have these guns are crazy people who shouldn't have the gun. They obtain them illegally. And then also, he mentioned the case of Australia with the rapid shootings. He didn't mention though what kind of guns it is that they banned. Maybe they just banned the assault rifles, which in the U.S. they are already banned. The machine guns, those are the ones that are already banned. The ones that they're trying to ban are the ones that are much simpler. They're just semi-automatic guns that have other features that just seem like if they're the machine guns, but they're really not. And yeah, that's